1.5 miles of freezing, chaotic water separates the island from the mainland. The currents in San Francisco Bay move at up to 8 knots, pulling straight out into the open ocean. Before you even touch a physical wall, the geography itself traps you. Inside that geographical moat sits Alcatraz. It was engineered specifically to house the inmates who caused problems everywhere else. The architecture was designed to induce absolute isolation and break the human spirit through routine and cold, hard steel. The security relied on concentric rings of defense. You have a 5 by 9 foot concrete cell secured by tool-resistant iron bars. Outside the cell, you have guards conducting rigid, randomized head counts. Past the guards, you have heavily fortified exterior walls, and finally, the deadly ocean currents. Up to this point, the Federal Bureau of Prisons recorded no successful escapes from the island. Every previous attempt had ended in capture or a body recovered from the bay. But on the morning of June 12, 1962, guards discovered empty beds. The operation was engineered by this man, an inmate named Frank Morris. Morris and 2 others spent months probing for a weakness in a facility deemed inescapable. The tools they eventually used were far from sophisticated. This is a logistical breakdown of how 3 men systematically dismantled America's premier fortress using nothing but spoons, hair, and raincoats. The first barrier was the concrete cell itself. Down near the floor, behind the toilet, sat a tiny, easily overlooked metal air vent measuring about 6 by 9 inches. Over months, the inmates stole standard metal spoons from the dining hall. They snapped the handles off, sharpened the edges, and used them as chisels to slowly scrape away at the moisture-damaged concrete surrounding the vent grates. This required scraping tiny flakes of stone by hand in the dark. They had to mask the noise of the digging by working during the designated music hour, all while guards patrolled the corridor just a few feet away. By widening those holes a fraction of an inch at a time, they bypassed the prison's primary architectural defense from the inside out. Breaking the wall was only the physical challenge. The procedural challenge was the nightly bed checks. If a guard walked by and saw an empty cot, the entire island would go into instant lockdown. To beat the protocol, they fabricated lifelike papier-mâché dummy heads. Placed under blankets, the texture fooled guards on their rounds. The scavenged materials mixed soap, toilet paper, and concrete dust for plaster, paint for flesh tones, and real hair from the barbershop. These masks bought them an essential, undetected 8-hour head start. Slipping through their widened vent holes, the 3 men wedged themselves into a 3-foot-wide utility corridor, hidden directly behind the cell walls. Moving vertically through this industrial plumbing shaft, they navigated a maze of hot pipes and iron grates, climbing upward toward a faint beam of moonlight filtering through a rooftop ventilator. They pried the vent open, stepping out onto the fog-swept concrete roof. They had beaten the prison interior. Now they faced the freezing, churning waters of the bay. To survive the water, they deployed their final invention, a massive 6 by 14 foot inflatable raft. It was constructed entirely out of 50 stolen dark green rubber raincoats, painstakingly stitched and glued together over several months. Crawling across the flat roof to avoid the sweeping beam of the Alcatraz lighthouse, they used a modified musical instrument to pump the raft full of air. Slipping down a pipe to the water's edge, they traded the man-made trap of the penitentiary for the uncontrollable environmental trap of the Pacific Ocean. Entering the San Francisco Bay at night means hitting pitch-black water averaging 54 degrees. Hypothermia sets in quickly, and the outgoing tide pulls violently toward the open sea. The final known moment is a tiny silhouette on a fragile rubber raft, pushing off the rocks, swallowed completely by the dense glowing fog. We know they defeated the physical architecture of Alcatraz, but their survival against the bay's currents remains entirely unproven. No bodies were ever recovered. The distant mainland lights stood as a ghostly finish line, a shore they may have reached, or one they died trying to find. By leaving a perfect void of information, Frank Morris and his accomplices escaped a physical building, and in doing so, authored the greatest unsolved penal myth in America.